49ers just paid George Kittle again. He's one of the great drafting stories in NFL history, certainly on his way to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And because of that, the 49ers should always keep his origin story in mind. I think they did with the drafting of offensive lineman Connor Colby. Speaking of origin stories, I'm at California's origin story right now. This is the El Camino Real, the King's Road, the first road in California connecting the 21 missions. I am standing right where the road used to run. Speaking of the missions, that is San Juan Bautista, made famous by Alfred Hitchcock in perhaps his greatest work, Vertigo. That movie ended here, an hour and a half south of San Francisco. Vertigo, most of it was filmed in San Francisco. Really good movie, really good way to get in touch with the roots of the state of California. And the 49ers, well, they're getting in touch with the roots, at least of this regime, but I feel that George Kittle, he's going to go down in 49ers history as one of their great picks. And so with history in mind, I'm thinking about why Connor Colby, the 49ers' 7th-round pick, has a good template in front of him. And it's the George Kittle template, even though they play different positions. Kittle was a skinny tight end coming out of Iowa, but he was exceptionally athletic. He wasn't all too involved in the pass game at Iowa because there wasn't much of a pass game relative to some of these air raid teams. But they loved to run the football and they loved to coach run blocking. So Kittle took that, he took his training, and he took his God-given natural talents, and he became an awesome run blocker, one of the best that we've ever seen at the tight end position. Of course, he also took that same explosiveness, that same athletic ability, and became an awesome receiver as well. Connor Colby, who plays a different position, he's not going to be catching many passes, but he's going to have to learn how to pass protect at a higher level because he just didn't do nearly as much of it at Iowa. Connor Colby is cut from the same cloth and is coming from a similar run blocking background at Iowa. He's explosive as hell. And I cannot overstate just how impressive the relative athletic score is for Connor Colby, especially considering the fact that he dropped until the 7th round. The reason that he was there is because this was an exceptionally deep draft class. So the 49ers were able to take advantage of the fact that so many of these really good players were available later than they would usually be. And they're able to get themselves a lineman who they think can really fit an outside zone scheme that is very, very demanding when it comes to player movement ability. The other lineman whom the 49ers were able to add was Drew Moss out of Colorado State. And when you look at Moss's relative athletic score, it actually looks really similar to Connor Colby's, except that Moss is a little bit smaller. And that little bit, that 5 or 6 pounds, actually makes a difference when it comes to the percentiles at the NFL level. So Moss went undrafted. You could see that there's some red in the upper left in the size portion of the relative athletic score. But the tape for Moss and the tape for Colby, really similar. These guys are damn good run blockers, which is a prerequisite for Kyle Shanahan in this system. Tim Lester, who's Iowa's offensive coordinator, had a chance to coach Connor Colby this last season. And he talked about the transition that Connor Colby is going to have to make to the NFL level in this conversation with our good friend, Guy Haberman.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that they're going to see, obviously, is one, the durability, which is the number one thing. You got to be out there, and he's consistently out there. He's extremely intelligent, but he can run. I mean, if you look at his broad jump times, he's an explosive for a big guy. He's extremely explosive running off the ball, and I think in your wide zone game with the running backs you guys have running, I mean, it's going to be fun. He won't look out of place running with those guys up front. And, obviously pass pro would probably be the thing. I mean, previous to me getting here, they didn't drop back a ton, and we didn't drop back a ton this year. So that's probably the one thing. I think that's every offensive lineman that goes to the NFL, working on their pass pro. Maybe some other programs need to learn how to run because all they did is pass pro, but we run the ball. Right. We have run the ball. So I haven't seen a ton of pass pro stuff. So he's going to probably need to clean that up because he's also going to be going against some really good defensive, 3 techniques and shades and 2 eyes. So that's probably the part that he has to focus on. Obviously, if they stay run and play pass, he'll fit in perfectly. And it'll be it did make sense to me when they took him because I just think he he fits with what they do, and so hopefully he can get in there. He's going to work hard. He's not going to say a word. You got to interview him, see what he says. I mean, I talked to him the other day in the hallway, and he talked to me more than he's talked to me since I've been here. Like, he was obviously excited he got drafted, right? And we talked about where you're going to live, and he just got his iPad and all this stuff that that rookies like him go through at this point. I think he's nervously excited, and but he does not talk. He likes to work, which will make him fit in really well in that locker room, I'm sure.
So it's about taking that next step in pass protection. It's a different game for anyone at the NFL level. The pass rushers on the inside at that 3 technique position are refined. You're not just going to face bull rushes anymore. You're not just going to face pure speed moves anymore. You're going to face very skilled karate-type offensive hand moves now from those defensive tackles, and you're going to have to be technical in response. So the 49ers will work to develop Connor Colby in that way. They'll work to develop Drew Moss in that way. But I'll tell you one thing that might really benefit them is the short shuttle time. When we talk about elite relative athletic scores, short shuttle is part of that. Short shuttle is the ability to move from side to side very, very quickly, and I think that's why we always look for guys with a 4.6 or better short shuttle, and the 49ers seem to have that in both Colby and Drew Moss. Either way, you look at the overall construction of this San Francisco offensive line, and left guard was the worst spot last year. People can talk about center all they want, people talk about right tackle all they want, and in the piece up on the San Francisco Standard, I point out again that Colton McKivitz was a decent tackle for the 49ers. He made some real strides in 2024. It was the left guard position occupied by Aaron Banks that gave San Francisco even more trouble than center. So left guard, it's up for grabs. I think Connor Colby can start there. When the 49ers drafted George Kittle back in 2017, they still had Vance McDonald on the roster. And people said, okay, there's no way a 5th-round pick can unseat Vance McDonald. Well, by the time that training camp was over, the 49ers had traded Vance McDonald, and George Kittle was the starter. Connor Colby, and I don't want to sell Drew Moss short, but Connor Colby has the physical tools and the background, the experience, the 50 starts, the durability at a school like Iowa to compete and legitimately compete for a starting spot along the offensive line. And if he wins that left guard spot, or even if Ben Barch wins that left guard spot, I think the 49ers can be in for an upgrade at that particular position. The 49ers offensive line was not nowhere near as bad as people make it out to be. I agree that there are future concerns for the San Francisco offensive line beyond 2025 because McKivitz is only under contract for one more season, and Trent Williams is going to be 37 years old. That all makes a whole lot of sense, and that's why I think we're going to be looking next year as a code red year for the 49ers to add, especially at the tackle position. But when it comes to what they need now to succeed in 2025, the 49ers have most needed an interior lineman, have most needed to add to the guard position. Center is a little bit more difficult because there's a cerebral projection at center given all the responsibilities that position has, but I think you can also benefit the center position by strengthening both sides of it, left guard and right guard. So the 49ers went to the Big 12 and got a starting right guard last year. We'll see if they've gone to the Big 10 for a starting left guard in Connor Colby this time around. But I can say this, if Connor Colby does just a fraction of what George Kittle was able to do as a run blocker who developed at Iowa, if Colby can just recreate 10% of that, 20% of that at the NFL level, the 49ers offensive line will have gotten better. Well, I don't think I planned this, but I ended up at the jail. Yeah, this used to be a little jailhouse in San Juan Bautista. So I guess I'll just have to check myself in and end the video from this beautiful rustic town. We study history, both in California and when it comes to the 49ers tight end and offensive line positions, especially as they relate to George Kittle and the University of Iowa.